be in Revelation 14 again today. We're actually going to be in a couple places today. And just to bring us up, to catch us up, to give us, we need a little bit of background before we continue today. We're going to look at Revelation 14, starting in verse 6. And it goes, "And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, the good news, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people." And so the gospel's going out to who?
Every nation, kindred.
Everybody. Every race, creed, color. It's going out to everybody. "Saying with a loud voice, Fear Elohim and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of the waters." And we talked about that last week. But the thing that I wanted to kind of re-pick up on again was fear. Fear Elohim. And how that's such a strange concept for what I call mainstream Christianity today, where it's all about love and good feelings and, you know, I know in my heart, blah, blah, blah. The concept of fearing Yah is kind of missing. And yet this angel is flying through space telling people, fear God and worship his son, right? So with that in mind, let's look at the next verse, verse 8. "And there followed another angel." So here comes another angel saying, "Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." So it says Babylon falls. Babylon is falling, is falling. So Babylon is going to fall. What does that look like? See, because we could go, and we're going to go further into here, dun, 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 and keep reading. And I think a lot of people read over that Babylon falls. And it's like, what would that look like if Babylon fell? And look, they want to hear the sermon too. That's why they're flying so low. As you're turning to Deuteronomy chapter 27, let's think about Moses. Who saw the movie? The Ten Commandments? It's unfortunately about all that anybody out there in America knows about Moses. But remember, he was a baby. They're killing all the Israelite male babies, and his mom puts him in a reed basket, floats him down. He gets picked up by Pharaoh's daughter, and then he's raised, this Israelite boy, he's raised in Pharaoh's house, and he rises up to a position of great authority over Egypt. We were just talking with about 4 different people today about good jobs. He's got a pretty good job. And then he realizes he's an Israelite. And it kind of bugs him, because what's the condition of the Israelites in Egypt, Mitzrayim back then?
Slaves.
They're slaves. And he sees an Egyptian beating severely another Israelite, and y'all remember what he does?
He murders him.
He kills the guy, right, with righteous indignation, which is really, I think, our first, I know I always get comments from YouTube on this when I say this. It's our first indication that Moses had anger issues, right? But he did. That's not the sermon today, though. And so he flees, runs away, and then he comes back because Yah told him to. And he ends up leading the entire Israelite nation, the Israelite people, out of bondage. Now, it's Father doing this, right? It's Yah doing this with the mighty hand and the outstretched arm. But he uses Moses, as his implement, as his tool, and he leads them out of captivity from the Egyptians, and then he leads them around the desert for how many years?
40.
40 years he leads these whining, sniveling, complaining, sinning people all around from Egypt to the Promised Land. And I mean to the Promised Land, as opposed to into the Promised Land, because Moshe doesn't get to go into the Promised Land. After all that work and everything he did, all he gets to do is look across Jordan, and what did I see? That's a song, right? Looked across Jordan, what did I see? But he doesn't get to go. Why doesn't he get to go?
Because he disrespected Yah.
Because he didn't listen to Yah, right? He hit the rock. Another example of anger issues, by the way. And so he's not allowed to go, but really it comes down to he disobeyed the Father. He didn't do what the Father told him to do. We're starting to get to the fear of Yah, right? That's kind of like this theme that's going in there. And before we started this, I said that we're looking at Babylon and what would the fall of Babylon look like. Let me get a rock. It wasn't windy when we started. And Moses is giving a speech here in Deuteronomy. And it's his final speech before the Israelites go. And Deuteronomy is the second telling. And so all before this, we read in Deuteronomy, we read about the Torah, the law, and all the rules and all that stuff. And so he's kind of gone over that. And just to pick up, I just want to look, starting out chapter 27 of Deuteronomy, verse 1. And Moshe with the elders of Israel commanded the people, now this is in the midst of a speech, commanded the people, saying, keep all the commandments which I command you this day. And it shall be on the day when ye shall pass over Jordan, which they're getting ready to do without him, unto the land which the Lord God shall give thee, that thou shalt set thee, and he starts talking about you're going to make these stones and you're going to do these things. But the bottom line is you're going to keep all the commandments of Yah. So he starts with that. Now go to chapter 28. We're going to do some reading here. Focusing on obedience, disobedience, focusing on what would it look like Babylon is falling. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently, if you shall listen diligently to the voice of Yahweh the Elohim, the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command you this day. Listen to Yah, observe his commandments, do his commandments. If you do that, that the Lord thy God, Yahweh the Elohim, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come unto thee and overtake thee. If, every time you see if, you should circle it. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, Yahweh the Elohim. If you listen to Yah, if you keep his commandments, which is what he said in verse 1, all these blessings are going to come onto you. Obedience brings blessings. And then we read through 28, blessing after blessing after blessing, all these wonderful things that are going to befall you if you listen to Yah, if you listen to the commandments. Follow the commandments, listen to the voice of Yah. Now look at verse 15. This is after the blessings. We're not going to read all the blessings because we're going to read a lot elsewhere. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh the Elohim, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And then we read more curses than blessings. Right? It's longer. That we read about all these curses. And you can go back and look at those later. But the bottom line is, if you do what Yah tells you to do and keep his commandments, you get all these blessings. If you don't listen to Yah and don't keep his commandments, you're going to get these curses. If then. I think that's important for us. Now let's go to chapter 29. These are and we're going to read 29. These are the words of the covenant which Yahweh commanded Moshe to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. And Moshe called unto all of Israel, and he said unto them, Ye have seen that what Yahweh did before the eyes of the land of Egypt unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, unto all his land. The great temptations which thine eyes have seen, the signs and those great miracles, yet Yahweh has not given you a heart to perceive and eyes to see and ears to hear unto this day. So he's like, hey, look, you guys saw everything Yah did. Now, this is at the end of 40 years. When he brought y'all out of the land of bondage, out of the land of Mitzrayim, and yet even to this day, you're not listening, you're not following, you're not doing what we just read before, the commandments of Yah. You're not hearkening unto his voice. To this day, you don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. 5. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not grown old upon you, and the shoe is not grown old upon your foot. You've not eaten bread, neither have ye drunk wine nor strong drink, that ye might know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. And when you came to this place, Sihon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us unto battle, and we smote them. Anybody know anything about those two kings?
They were giants.
They're giants. It's not just that they had two armies to fight. These armies were led by literal giants. That's elsewhere. And we took their land, and we gave it for an inheritance unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to half the tribe of Manasseh. Verse 9, important, underline it. Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do. Again, obedience brings blessings. Keep these words so that life goes good for you. You stand this day, all of you, before Yahweh your Elohim, your captains of your tribes, your elders, your officers, with all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water, that thou should enter into a covenant with Yahweh the Elohim, and into his oath which Yahweh the Elohim makes with you this day, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, that he may be unto thee as a Elohim, as a God. He has said unto thee, as he has sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. And so we are standing on the banks of Jordan, figuratively. We're getting ready to cross over into the promised land, and it's time to recommit ourselves to the Father before we go, because he's going to bless us. He's blessed us so far, and he's getting ready to. That's what he's saying. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that stands here with us this day before Yahweh our Elohim, and also with him that is not here with us this day. For you know how we have dwelt in the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim, and how we came through the nations which you passed by. And ye have seen their abominations. Now we're starting to get to Babylonian-esque things. We have seen their abominations and their idols, wood, stone, silver, gold, which were among them. Lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away this day from Yahweh our Elohim and goes and serves the gods of these nations. Lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. He's warning them. He's saying, hey, you've seen all this garbage. And again, just allow me to use the term, this Babylonian-esque garbage. And I'm telling you this in case any of y'all are feeling tempted to go after that stuff that we've passed through and that you've seen. And it comes to pass when he hears the words of this curse that he blesses himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of my heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. So this is people who hear this curse and go, that's not going to apply to me. It doesn't apply to me. I can go chase this gold, this silver, this wood, this idol, this stuff. It doesn't matter. Check it out, 20. Yahweh will not spare him, but then the anger of Yahweh, remember fear the Lord? Mm-hmm. The anger of Yahweh and his jealousy shall smoke against that man. That man is an Israelite. Mm-hmm. Yah's chosen. And all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and Yahweh shall blot out his name from under heaven. Why is he blotting out his name from under heaven? Because you're deciding to go after those other gods. You're deciding to go after that other garbage that the heathens were practicing, and you're not following the commandments of Yah. And so Yah's just going to remove that person's name from the book. And Yahweh shall separate him unto the evil out of all the tribes of Israel, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the law. So that the generation to come of your children shall rise up after you, and the stranger that shall come from a far land shall say, when they see the plagues of that land, the plagues of the land that Yah has visited upon you because you're not following his commandments, and the sickness which Yahweh has laid upon it, and that the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that it is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass grows therein, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim, which the Yahweh overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. I got goosebumps when I read that this week. I got goosebumps when I read it this morning, and I just got goosebumps when I read it again, because I'm telling you, when I read this, I'm thinking about the US of A. Mm-hmm. And the wrath that we are due in this country, this land that was founded on Christian ideals and that worship the Father and that has turned away as a land from him, that murders babies in the womb at just an incredibly horrific rate of what's going on, how we deny the Father, how we hold up everything that's evil and bad. How long do we think that's going to go on? And I'm telling you, the Father is going to judge this land, and I think we're getting a picture of it here, which is why I get goosebumps, because it's pretty awful. Where am I?
24.
Even all the nations shall say, wherefore has Yahweh done this unto the land? What meaneth the heat of this great anger? Remember, fear the Lord, fear Yah. The men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of Yahweh Elohim of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the land of Egypt. For they went and they served other gods, and they worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom they had not, and whom he, Yah, had not given unto them. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against this land to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book. And Yahweh rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and he cast them into another land, as it is this day. The secret things belong unto Yahweh our Elohim, but those things which are revealed belong to us and our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Moses is saying, you're being told this stuff to scare you, scared straight, to keep the word of Yah. 30. Deuteronomy. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. Focus on that. The blessings and the curse. It's a choice. You can have blessings or you can have curses, and we have free will. We get to choose. Or we choose you this day who you will serve. As for me and my house, we'll follow Yah. You get blessed. If you decide to go after these other things, these Babylonian type things, you're going to get curses. Which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh the Elohim has driven thee. And shall return unto Yahweh the Elohim, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. See, Israel was scattered. Israel was first scattered by the Assyrians when they came in and took away the northern kingdom. This is years in the future of where we're reading now. They formed their own kingdom. We're getting ready to read about that a little bit. And then it splits, and then the Assyrians come in and they take away the kingdom of Israel, northern kingdom, take them away captivity, and they get scattered. They come in, and the Babylonians come in later and take the southern kingdom of Judah and take them, and that starts the scattering of Israel. And Israel today is scattered all over. Blood Israel and spiritual Israel is scattered all over the world, and yet the Father is going to gather us all back one day to the land that he chose for Israel, which is over there in the Middle East. And then Yahweh the Elohim will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and he will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. That's going to happen. That's still future. It's what we call the second Exodus, or the greater Exodus. If any of thine be driven out into the outermost parts of heaven, from there will Yahweh the Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Again, we could go into the 1 out of 100 sheep goes astray, and Yeshua talks about going after it, right? And bringing that one sheep back into the fold. Wherever they are, the Father's going to bring us back. And Yahweh the Elohim will bring thee into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh the Elohim will circumcise your heart, and the heart of your seed, your offspring, to love Yahweh the Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, that thou mayest live. Remember when the lawyer asked him, what's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy might. That is the first. And Yahweh the Elohim will put all these curses upon your enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And you shall return and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. See, these commandments didn't go away. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's people out there who think that these commandments are gone, that Yeshua did away with the commandments. Well, if they kept them before, and when he gathers everybody together, they're going to keep them again. Why an intermission? There is no intermission, right? We have to obey. We have to follow him. To do all his commandments that I command you this day. And Yahweh the Elohim will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land for good. Yahweh will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. Because why? Because you're keeping his commandments at this point. And so when you have obedience, it brings blessings. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh the Elohim and keep his commandments and his statutes, if you do that, which are written in the book of the law, and if you turn unto Yahweh the Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. For this commandment which I command thee this day is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. And that's the thing with people today in the mainstream Christian church. It's not hidden, it's just they never open this part of the book. And they don't read. It's not hidden. Or you could say it's hidden in plain sight. I never knew that. How many people who came to the realization of the way of how we're supposed to follow Yah were reading things in this book at that time going, I never knew that was in there. I mean, I know I did. I go, I never knew that. You know, my son taught me many years ago now that it says you give your firstborn son a double portion of the inheritance. He made sure I knew that part of the Bible. Right? So there you go. I have 3 kids. He gets 50%. Where am I? All right, 17. We'll just go there. So here's all the goodness if you follow. We're talking blessings and curses, verse 17. But if your heart turns away so that you will not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, if you do that, I denounce unto you this day that you shall surely perish, and that you shall not prolong your days upon the land whither you passed over Jordan to go to possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your seed may live. You have a choice. He sets before us life and death, blessing and cursing. We can choose to follow the way, we can choose to obey his commandments, to keep his Torah, or we can choose to go after these Babylonian other gods and idols and things and ideas that are out there in the world. And it is either or. There's no middle ground here. You either pick Yah or you don't. And if you don't, you're signing up with the adversary. And that you may love Yahweh the Elohim, and that you may obey his voice, and that you may... So that you love him, and so that you obey his voice. Yeshua said, if you love me, what?
Keep my commandments.
Keep my commandments. See, love is not expressed by this warm feeling of butterflies and flowers and, oh, I just love Jesus and I know he loves me. Love is shown through obedience. Obedience to his commands. Obedience to what he tells us to do. If you do that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is your life and the length of your days, that you may dwell in the land which Yahweh sware unto the fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to give them. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 21. How long after Moses was Jeremiah? A long time. Right? They're not even into the promised land yet. They haven't conquered the promised land yet. They haven't consolidated into the kingdom of Israel yet. They haven't split up the kingdom of Israel yet. Right? And then Jeremiah comes on the scene. A long time after that speech we just read. And wow, we're going to see some consistency here. The word which came unto Jeremiah from Yahweh when King Zedekiah... What kingdom got taken away first? The northern kingdom or the southern kingdom? Northern kingdom. Southern kingdom, you remember what it's called? Judah. Zedekiah is the last king of Judah. Okay, so that's how far into the future we are from what Moshe was saying. So here's Zedekiah. Word came to Jeremiah from Yahweh when King Zedekiah sent unto Jeremiah. Now it says in the King James, Pashur the son of Melchiah and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, saying, and it's weird. It looks like Maaseiah is the priest, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's a small point, but when you convert this back to Aramaic, I know it's Greek, Aramaic Hebrew, what it comes out is Zephaniah the priest, who was the son of Maaseiah. So Zephaniah's the priest. Anyway, he sends these guys to Jeremiah, and they say, inquire, I pray thee, this is what the emissaries are saying, of Yahweh for us. So please approach Yahweh for us. For Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, makes war against us. Now, you know how this is going to go, right? Babylon is getting ready to make war against the last king of Judah. He's the last king because Babylon wins and takes him away, right? But they're asking Jeremiah to get Yah to come in on their side. So be that Yahweh will deal with us according to all his wondrous works, that he may go up from us. We want Yah's help because these bad Babylonians are coming. And then said Jeremiah unto them, Thus shall ye say to Zedekiah, take this back to the king. Thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, Behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, wherewith you fight against the king of Babylon. I'm going to make your Glock fall apart in your hand, is what he's saying, that you're trying to fight the king of Babylon. And against the Chaldeans which besiege you without the walls, and I will assemble them into the midst of this city. Yah is saying, I'm going to make your weapons not work, and I'm going to bring these bad guys into the middle of your city. And I myself, this is Yah speaking. Jeremiah is speaking what Yah is saying. And I myself will fight against you, Israel, with an outstretched hand and a strong arm, even in anger and in fury and in great wrath. This is Yah saying, I'm going to fight with the bad guys, with the Babylonians, and I will smite the inhabitants of this city, both man and beast. They shall die of great pestilence. And afterward, says Yahweh, I will deliver Zedekiah, king of Judah, and his servants, and the people. King James, people's capitalized. That's Israel. And such as are left in this city from pestilence, from the sword, and from the famine. So all of those people who lived during this siege, as the Babylonians and the Chaldeans are coming, all of you who live, I'm going to deliver them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of those that seek their life. And he shall smite them with the edge of the sword. He shall not spare them, neither have pity, nor have mercy. That's what I'm going to do to you, you Israelites, you chosen people of mine that are in this city and are begging me for help. I'm turning you over to the bad guys, and I'm going to let them kill you. And unto this people you shall say, Thus saith Yahweh, Behold, I set before you a way of life and a way of death. I set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. We read that, Moshe said that hundreds and hundreds of years beforehand. He that abides in this city shall die by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. Oh, that could never happen. This is the last remaining part of Israel. God's chosen people. That won't happen. No, he's saying it's going to happen. But he that goes out falls to the Chaldeans that besiege you. If you try and escape, he shall live. For his life shall be upon him for a prey. For I have set my face against this city for evil, and not for good. Remember I said, what does it look like when it says Babylon's going to fall? For I have set my face against this city for evil, and not for good, saith Yahweh. It shall be given into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. And touching the house of the king of Judah, say, Hear ye the word of Yahweh. O house of David, saith Yahweh, execute judgment in mourning, and deliver him that is spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor, lest my fury go out like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. Behold, I am against thee, O inhabitant of the valley and rock of the plain, saith Yahweh, which say, Who shall come down against us? Or who shall enter into our habitations? Why? Because we're Israel. We're Yah's chosen people. No one's going to come against us. If he be for us, who can stand against us? Well, guess what? He's not for them at this point, because they're not being obedient. They're being very disobedient. But I will punish you according to the fruit of your doings, saith Yahweh, and I will kindle a fire in the forest thereof, and it shall devour all things round about. Do you think we should fear Yah?
Yes.
See, this is what this is. This is Yah, and he says, okay, I've had it with you guys. Spankings are totally off the list. We're going to the next level here. Fear Yah, because he'll do this. Cursings and blessings, life and death. All right, let's go back to Revelation chapter 14. Here we go. Verse 8, again. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Babylon is falling because Babylon has become so powerful that all the other nations out there have followed her into fornication. This is metaphorically speaking, sort of, here. And so Yah's wrath is against them. Just like it was, and this is Babylon. This isn't Israel. So they started out on the wrong side, and now Yah's wrath is descending upon them. Judgment is nigh. And so I ask again, what is Babylon? Is Babylon a city? Is Babylon a religious system? Is Babylon a political system? And yeah, that's Babylon. It's all those things into one, which is why I said Babylon-esque, the bad things. And so his judgment is coming. Now this fornication that it talks about, it's spiritual. It's following after other gods. We hear that, went whoring after other gods. It's used in that context. But many times, most times, when one goes down that spiritual route, the physical route follows. I mean, we have kids here, so I'm not going into that level of detail, but there's a lot of wicked, evil stuff out there on the internet. Where do you think that comes from? That's not from Yah's people. That's spiritual fornication going into physical fornication. And Yah hates it. And judgment is coming. And where is most of that crap produced? In America. Makes me angry because I think this is a great land. I don't think it can stand much longer. All right, verse 9. So that's the second angel. Yah's mad because Babylon, this system, has led the world astray. Third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man, circle, worship the beast and his image and receive the mark in the forehead of his hand, I'll continue, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture. That means straight. This is straight wrath. We're not cutting it with 7-Up. We're not cutting it with Coke. We're not cutting it with orange juice. This is straight up wrath of Yah. If you take the mark, you're getting it. Which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And now this person who does this shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels. We'll get to that, in the presence of the Lamb. There's a mark coming. And people are going to take this mark. And I think many people are going to take this mark and they'll know, but they'll dismiss it. You know how sometimes we know something, but we don't let ourselves believe it? Or we're going to dismiss this mark as, I'm not really worshiping the Antichrist, the beast, by taking this mark. I'm doing it to save my starving baby. I'm doing it so my husband doesn't lose his job. I'm doing it because we won't be able to pay property taxes on Shofar Mountain, and they're going to take it from all the good saints here who rely on it if we don't get the mark. They're going to look at it like it's not worshiping. I think a lot of people, some people are going to be straight up worshiping them, but they're going to look at it like it doesn't matter, but it does. It's the same thing as back around the time this was actually written, 90 AD, Rome is the world power, and there's Jews living under the system, and they started Caesar worship. And they put statues of Caesar everywhere, and people had to come up and light, like the version of lighting a little candle for, they had to light this incense for Caesar and say this little thing like, Hail Caesar, or something. It was meant to worship Caesar as a god, but a lot of these people just poo-pooed that. It's like, well, that's not what it means to me. Doesn't matter what it means to you. It matters what it means to Yah, and Yah will not accept it. You cannot take the mark of the beast for any reason. It's worshiping the beast. Choose you this day, life or death, blessings or curses. The people who choose the mark are going to get cursed. In verse 10, we see this: the people who do shall drink of the wine. It's the same wine. There's this wine of wrath and indignation. Shall drink of the wine of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and shall be, here's what's going to happen, they shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, sulfur, in the presence of the set-apart messengers, and in the presence of the Lamb. Wait a minute. Yah's going to torture people? Oh yeah, with fire and brimstone. And it's going to be in the presence of the elders and in the presence of the Lamb, which is Yeshua, which at this point is sitting in judgment of the world. It's righteous penalty. We've been told some things are revealed. Well, the things that are revealed we're accountable for. We just read that. It's going to happen. Look at verse 11. And the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever. In the Greek, that's ages and ages, which is the strongest way the Greeks could put eternity. You want to tick off Yah? People think we don't have to fear Yah. It's all about loving Him, and He loves us. Forever and ever. All I did was take the mark so I could keep my job, so I could provide for my family. It doesn't matter. You can't do that. That's a huge thing we can't do. And it's coming. I don't know what form it's going to take, but you'll know it when you see it. And you can't take a mark. It's real torment. It's forever. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim in faith in Yeshua. Here's how we see who the saints are. Here's how we see who the set apart people are in this time. They keep the commandments of Yah, of Elohim. And they love Yeshua. Look at, just flip back quickly, chapter 12, verse 17. The woman flees to the wilderness. And the dragon is wroth with the woman. That's the believers in the end times. They flee. Why do they flee to the wilderness? Because they can't pay their property tax on their land because they didn't take the mark of the beast. They can't go shopping because they don't have the mark of the beast. They're not going to be able to trade, sell, or anything without the mark of the beast. So what do? If they stick around here, the bad guys are coming. So they flee to the wilderness. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed. And this is how we know who makes it in the end, who the remnant of her seed is. They keep the commandments of Elohim, and they have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. They keep the commandments of God, and they have the testimony of Jesus Christ. That's an and. It's a hard and. It's not just love Jesus, but we'll let the Jews keep the commandments. It's not we'll keep the commandments, but we'll let the Christians have that guy they call Jesus. It's both. That's us. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep the commandments of Yah, and we have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in Yahweh from henceforth. Wait a minute. If I follow Yah, if I keep the commandments of Yah and have a testimony of Yeshua, I still could die? Yeah. And if you do, you're blessed. Blessed are the dead which die in Yahweh from henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Does somebody have something different than their works do follow them?
And their works follow with them.
What that means is, the works you have done, that is noticed, and that comes with you. So the recognition of the recognition of the works you have done comes with you when you go. Does that mean you have a faith-based salvation or theology? No. We're not saved by our works. Our works demonstrate the fact that we are trying to follow Yah. But you're saved by the blood of Yeshua. How many here have kept Torah perfectly? Nobody. All right, so clearly we're not saved by our works. Yeshua kept it perfectly. But we're to keep his works. We're to keep the commandments of Yah. He tells us that. Choose you this day, life or death, blessings or curses. That's so important. And we fight with people on that who are still in the mainstream church a lot. And I'm trying to find one more thing here. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God in the faith of Yeshua. Well, I'm just going to say it because I don't know what part I want to say it in. Somebody asked me, they sent me an email recently, and they said, hey, I'm relatively new to Torah, and I feel like I can't remember how they worded it, They were under the impression that the Great Commission, go into all the world and preach the gospel, was the saying, go be a street preacher. This person didn't want to be a street preacher. And I got to tell you, there's not a lot of places in here you can find street preachers. There's a lot of ways to share the message, the good news of Yeshua. Oh, that's what I was thinking of, the testimony of Jesus Christ. If you have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, you have a testimony. It's not an internal testimony. It's an external testimony. Number one, when Yeshua said, go into all the world and preach the gospel, who was he talking to? He was talking to the apostles, very specific people. Go do this thing. So, and the person asked me, is that a commandment that we do that? No, it's not a commandment that we do that. However, it is a way. It is a principle of how we're supposed to be. And to have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, your testimony may be to your children. You're testifying of Yeshua to your children. You're telling them, you're testifying. That's fine. It doesn't mean you have to go to India. Does it mean you shouldn't go to India? No, it doesn't. You can go to India and preach the gospel. You can go wherever you want, wherever the Lord leads you. But for this person who said, I'm terrified of standing on the street, and I don't know that God's telling me to do that. I just think that we're supposed to because that's what it says in the Bible. And I told him, no, you don't have to go stand on a street corner and preach the gospel. Nobody told you have to do that. And they said, how do you do it at Shofar Mountain? And so then we went into a thing. We all have our different roles to play. We all have our different gifts. The important thing that we internalize as individuals is follow the commandments of Yah and testify about Yeshua. We can't be afraid to do that. See, that's another thing in this world as we're going along. It's becoming politically incorrect, and it'll eventually become flat out illegal, and it is in some parts of the world, to testify about Yeshua. It's going to have consequences. Right now is easy. It's easy. We can keep the commandments of Yah, no big deal. We can testify about Jesus, no big deal. It's easy. It won't always be so. This is the training time. This is the time for us to get better. This is the time for us to understand that, we are to fear Yah. He is worthy of our utmost respect and awe at his awesome splendor. Let's pray.